Cool. Woo! So I guess first thing would just be about the Washington trip and how it led into this one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Joe. Yeah. Scott. Saddle Mountain. Which way you go?
I kind of started the idea about climbing a mountain. We did it. It worked. It was phenomenal. And Joe said, "Hey, I got an idea for our next climb." And I said, "If you plan it, I'll go."
I thought we should do another one. I think you were kind of antsy for it too, so we just...
So we began planning the next trip. We set a timetable, but didn't really know where we were heading. We started looking at some information on our last trip in Mount Washington. And that's actually when we came across something pretty interesting about Mount Washington.
I was on Wikipedia or something, and it lists that Washington wasn't the next highest mountain on the eastern side
That
of the
it
US.
wasn't the highest mountain east of the Mississippi.
Mount Mitchel. It's the highest mountain in the eastern United States. At its peak, it is actually 6,684 feet, which ends up being 396 feet higher than Mount Washington is. Mount Mitchell is located in the Black Mountains, kind of a secluded offshoot of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which in turn is a part of the Appalachian Mountains and the Appalachian Trail. All in all, there are 12 peaks in the Black Mountains, which are actually higher than Mount Washington.
We decided that Mitchell was going to be a lot easier of a climb because the tree line goes all the way to the top and the weather's a lot more erratic on Washington, so we decided that we were going to backpack to add a little bit of extra, I don't want to say strain, but like a little bit more adventure to it.
Because we'll be actually spending entire days outside rather than just a day hike and come back.
So we pulled together our equipment. We borrowed a lot of it from my parents, and then we also made a list of supplies, which included 2 backpacks, 2 pairs of pants, 2 sets of waterproofs, 2 sweaters, 2 sweaters, 1 headband, 1 pairs of gloves, 2 sleeping bag cases, glasses, 2 sunglasses, 4 VRs, 2 rotary waterproof bags, and a jet boil cooking system. And alongside all these other items, we took our camera equipment, including memory cards, extra batteries, housing units, and waterproofing measures. Chris brought his Canon 70 DSLR with the lens, and because of the trouble we had with the portability on the Mount Washington trip, we each actually ended up purchasing and taking our HD GoPro Hero cameras, which, because of our previous usage, we knew could withstand some abuse.
So we decided to do a practice camp overnight, and we did it in Southern Ohio. We did it in Zaleski. I don't know how to say it, honestly.
Yeah, whatever. That
Who
place
cares,
with the
because
Z.
there's no one lives there. We had a hell of an adventure getting there. So now it literally took us hours to find the trail.
There's a river crossing. We're supposed to just go up and around. Where?
So we left Columbus at about noon, got down there in about an hour and a half's time, and then spent 2 or 3 hours looking around for the entrance of the trail.
About 5:30, we hiked 5 miles, took us a couple hours, and we got set up.
It wasn't bad. It's real hot.
Really hot.
Just testing out all our new gear because when we borrowed all of our backpacking stuff from my parents. So it was just a lot of it was trying to figure out like how to put our tents up, cooking stuff, just figuring out all this new gear.
Stuff we needed, stuff we didn't need.
So that when we got to Mitchell, we wouldn't be absolutely dumbfounded with all of our stuff and how to pack it and how to unpack it and all that stuff.
We did that, and actually it thunderstormed that night, and that was a reality check for me because I was like, it made me quite uncomfortable during the thunderstorm because I thought I was going to die. And I react really well in those situations. I have a good sense of survival. And so that went really well, I thought.
I got the forecast.
Yeah?
Showers and thunderstorms becoming more scattered by 11.
And then?
Oh God.
What?
Well, right now, it's 30% chance of thunderstorm. But then at 1, it goes to 50, 2, 60, 360, 470, 570. All the way through 12 p.m. tomorrow, 50% chance of thunderstorm.
Yeah, so that was our trial run beforehand to get ready. Because in Washington, we had learned that, I mean, even though we bought books, read, we had made a trail map before, like where we were going to go. We were all set in Washington, but saying and doing obviously are two different things. As we got in a pickle when we were on Washington, and it all ended up fine, but it was just like we should probably prepare a little more so for this one. So we went on that Southern Ohio trip.
Yeah, because I mean, overnight's a lot different than coming back.
Yeah.
So later on, we finalized our plans, and in the summer, we headed out. We moved south, starting at Columbus, into Kentucky, where we visited the Buffalo Trace Distillery. Then again south into Tennessee, then down into North Carolina, where we headed east into Asheville. We stayed there for a night, and then the next morning we headed into the mountains.
I've been down and I'm wondering why these little black clouds keep walking around with me. It's time and I'd rather be high. Think of what me outside and about a rainbow smile, but they're free. They are free. So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way. Being the upside of down, being the inside of I, but we breathe. We breathe. I wanna breathe in an open mind. I wanna swim in the ocean, wanna take my time for me. Oh, me. So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way.
The morning after reaching Asheville, we headed out from Asheville to the Blue Ridge Mountains and then into the Black Mountains and the Mount Mitchell State Park.
And it was actually a really awesome drive. We went on the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Blue Ridge Parkway, very, very awesome, slow drive. Beautiful, fun. We took that up into the fog. It was...
Yeah.
Once we got to the entrance of the park, we were immediately greeted by an alarming visitor.
Black bears stand just 5 feet tall on their back legs, but they're packed with 500 pounds of strength, powerful teeth, and dangerous claws.
So after meeting our first black bear, we headed up to the ranger's office, where we again discovered something a little startling.
The drive, I mean, it was really weird because I had talked to a park ranger before, like months before we went up, and I was kind of asking, can we, how are we going to make a loop out of this? Can we park the car here and go wherever? Like looking at the map that they had online, the guy was like, oh yeah, sure, cool, come down. I mean, he's a super nice guy, but
He was
it
wrong.
wasn't.
He
Pretty
was
much.
super wrong. Like Joe's planning went to shit. We got there. We parked. I guess in my mind, when Joe said he'd talk to this guy, I kind of assumed I was basing it on our previous trip. We would park at the bottom because that's where I figure everything's at the bottom, and you can either go to the top or you can go around in the woods. Like Washington has an amazing array of networking trails. I mean, it's what I would imagine a trail system would be.
Yeah.
You go to Mitchell, you basically drive all the way to the top. We got to Ranger Station. We're like, you guys are 2 feet from the top. You might as well go to the top, park your car there. And we realized like our whole plan was shot to hell. And we had to within 10 minutes had to figure out a whole new plan.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it was going to be like. It's really unassuring when you create a plan on the fly when you thought you had something from before. What we ended up doing was driving to the very top of the summit, parking
Close to it.
Oh,
It's weird. There's like
primarily,
a little
yeah.
tier.
We were almost at the summit.
And we started from there.
So here became our plan. We'd start near the top of Mount Mitchell, near a park, head over to Mount Craig, then into Big Tom, over to Balsam Cone, then to Cattail Peak. From Cattail Peak, we'd go to Deep Gap, the first night's campsite. For our second day, we planned on backtracking a little bit on a little trail that would head down the mountain to the Equestrian Trail. We'd follow that all the way down to the Commissary Ridge campsite, and finally on the third day, we would head up the Mount Mitchell Trail to the peak of Mount Mitchell, so we would actually go from the bottom all the way to the top of the mountain.
All of us lonely, it ain't a sin to want something better than the shape you're in. The rain came at the break of day. Your light in the window, babe, said come on in. It's a broken heart, babe, I know the sound. Feels like your hands are nailed to the ground. It'll pass just like everything else. You won't let it get you, babe, the next time around. It's a harder victory. The life that came from you to me could never be wrong.
Anyway,
it got real rough. And
I was a little out of my element that first day, but it was frustrating because something on the map wasn't marked right. We were trying to camp 4.5 or so miles from the summit. There was a place called Deep Gap, right? Deep Gap.
Yeah.
Sounds like Helm's Deep. We're in freaking we're in Middle Earth at this point. Deep Gap. Elron allowed us to camp there. So we got there. We didn't know we got there. We actually got there and then we kept going because it wasn't marked. We walked through the campsite. It seemed like a good place to camp, and I think we thought, oh, this would be a nice place to camp. Then we kept going because there was no sign that said this is where you're supposed to camp.
This is what we missed. This is the marker.
Where's that sign that says this is the top of the mountain?
There weren't any in the past two that we climbed. It was just like, obviously, I don't know, we got to the points and we were like, so this is the highest point in the mountain. Where's the sign at? And there was no sign.
With the amount of weight that we've been wearing and the time we've been hiking, we were just dead. There's no way we could do it. So we're like, you know what? We're gonna go back. We figured out we passed a place. It wasn't marked. The sign was wrong, and we camped there. And that's when it got awesome. Like, I love the campsite. We realized how cool of a spot it was to camp.
We were literally on top of a mountain, and at that point, I mean, it's just bizarre to think because there's so many big, the higher you go up, the more it turns into pine trees and stuff like that, and the ground's just all needles.
Yeah,
and it's so bizarre because...
How did you find out the ground was all needles? Well, it's when you have to, when the bear in the woods.
So we set up camp and spent that night at the top of Cattail Peak Mountain, making company with all the bears that were shitting in the woods. It ended up being a long evening, as it stormed in nearby Asheville all night long, and we could actually hear tornado sirens all throughout the night. The next morning, we woke up to a bright and sunny day. The temperature was about 40 degrees, and we couldn't believe the sights that we hadn't seen the night before.
But the view, like Joe said, we were on the crest of a mountain, and it was about the size of a football field, I bet. And you went over 20 yards this way, and there was literally a drop-off. And it was the most amazing view you could have seen out the side. And that side, you couldn't see as well, but you could tell it was on the side of the mountain.
Christmas night, clutch the light, the hollow bright. Above my brother right, insane it's fine. We smoked the screen to make it what it was to be. And I don't know it around and once I knew I was not magnificent.
So day 2 morning, beautiful day, and we start hiking, and we go, and we're having a great time. I mean, beautiful views. We're soaking in the scenery. You got the beautiful rhododendrons, the pine trees, the hills, the views, everything. The day starts getting a little more real when we started heading down the mountain, because there was this trail we probably have to cut to scene of map that Joe kept and I threw away. Where we backtracked for about a mile-ish, and then we went pretty much straight down. we had stopped at the point. We decided we're gonna be men. We're gonna do the harder thing. We're gonna carry on. So we did. It was actually that was only the second break we took. Just taking a break here. About to hit the Mount Mitchell Trail. The rest of the mountain. I'll go that way actually. And over.
Alright, so thinking about it for months, here's the time. Down at the bottom, we're gonna head up Mount Mitchell. Should take us, what did it say, an hour and a half?
I think we'll double check.
Hour and a half. We've gotten around some of the trails here today. Here are the campsites. There's another campsite further down there, and that's where we're supposed to stay tonight, but we're gonna just go for it. Mount Mitchell.
Going from here up, bypass, car, and then summit.
It's about, let's see here, it's like 10 till 2. Started at like, can't remember. So we really haven't been going that long, but it's just been really strenuous.
So Joe's ran out of water, but we're getting to the top because we can see that way, we can see daylight, which means we're not going up as far. But look at these woods.
Point out we can see sky on either side. Means that we're really on the ridge now.
Hopefully close to the top. It's pretty hard going up there. It's good. Crazy woods though. It just changes every time we get to a new height. Everything changes. Alright. Near the top. It was all for the best, and it was a really good trip, and I hope next one's as good as that one.
Yeah,
but
see.